Alrighty, I'm hoping that you can see me and you can hear me. I know there was a bit of a glitch there with the comments going on as we were going through the countdown. So if anybody just give me a quick comment in the comment section there to say that you can hear me, that would be fantastic. Well, I'll carry on regardless, just in case I miss one of those comments. But tonight, thank you so much for joining me. We've got people from all over the place. Got some great numbers. This is definitely Lee. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we've had some real good response to this picture. So I thought tonight why not go through all of this? Now you'll see that when I do go through it, there's a heck of a lot of layers involved. So obviously I'm not going to go through the complete retouch, but I've cherry picked 5 good parts. Well, 5 not good parts, 5 parts that I think would be the best beneficial ones to share with you. But also one of them is one that a guy I know called Guy Brennan, he said, oh, could you show how to do that? So I'm going to include that as well. But folks, just so that you know, obviously the chat is a great place for you to kind of interact with everybody. There's so many of my friends I can see in there now just as I look across at the other screen. So thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, as usual, I'm very grateful to Anthony and to Brian who are moderating. They're in there as well. But tonight we also have a bit of a special guest. You won't see him, but he is in there. 𝐷𝐸, who is the subject of this picture. His handle is Chopper O'Toole. So he's in there. We're going to go through his picture that I did of him sat in the boot of the car, believe it or not, when we did it. I'll show you that. But we're also going to see a video from 𝐷𝐸 that we captured when we were on top of this. I'd call it a mountain. He probably calls it a hill. But I want to play something like that. So there's a lot we're going to go through tonight. Try and get through very, very quickly, or as quick as we can. And obviously this will also be recorded and held on the YouTube channel afterwards so that you can go back and check on everything as well. Cool. Right then. So what is the picture we're going to go through? The picture is this one here. Something different for me. You know, I haven't done anything like this for quite some time. It kind of reminds me of the stuff that I was doing when I first started out, and I used to do quite a lot of stuff with a friend of mine called Calvin Hollywood and Olaf Gearman. So it was really nice to go back to that particular style. I've got a feeling I might want to do some more of this. But regards to the lighting, okay, I have done a blog post explaining how this is done. The link to that is in the description of this video. But let's have a quick look at the lighting, because bearing in mind now, we were outside. I'd gone to Newport in Pembrokeshire. Just before this picture was taken here, or before this picture was taken, we'd actually gone up the top of this, I'm going to say mountain. Okay, I'm going to say mountain. It's called 𝐶𝐤𝐤𝐤, I think, 𝐷𝐸. So we'd done that. We came back down. I wanted to take an idea for a portrait. And the idea for this portrait came from, if you've ever seen the film Hancock, the film Will Smith's Hancock, the poster that was used to advertise that, that's where I got the idea from. Don't ask me why it kind of came to my head, but it just did. So me and 𝐷𝐸 kind of organised that I was going to do this particular headshot. Now, because we're outside, obviously when you are outside, you know, the light it was a very cloudy day. So there was a very soft light, even light everywhere. So if I'd have photographed 𝐷𝐸 just outside, with nothing else around him, he'd have had the same lighting, front, back, side, top, down, everywhere. So I needed to get a bit of shape to the light. Now I did, as you can see in the first picture here, you can see on the floor there is a modifier. I was thinking about using a modifier, a light, but I kind of changed my mind about that. But getting him in the boot of the car made a huge difference to the lighting. And you can see that on here now, look. So I ended up just going with natural light. The camera's on a tripod. For anybody who's kind of interested in what the camera was, it was my Sony a7R4, and the lens is the 85mm G Master, and I think I was around about f4, something like that maybe. But because 𝐷𝐸 sat in the car, the boot lid is up, and you've also got the material parcel shelf, which is extended behind him. So what that's actually doing is this. From the top, it means the light coming on top of his head is being restricted. So that's one part of the light that we're controlling. We've also got this wall and this foliage coming in on the right-hand side of 𝐷𝐸, camera left, which is also restricting the light hitting the side of him, which means then we've got the majority of the light hitting 𝐷𝐸 coming in. It's hard to do the arrow to explain this, but it's kind of coming in front and side. And that's going to give us some shape to the light on 𝐷𝐸's face. So if I show you the out of camera picture, you can see now. So this side here is the side that was nearest to the wall and the flowers and what have you. So you can see there is definitely a shadow on that side of the face. And then this side here, this is where you can see the highlight. So, you know, even though we're using natural light, because we're using the car and the environment, we're able to kind of position dye in such a way that the light is restricted in some places, but coming in from others. Exactly what I would have done had I had a modifier, a lighter modifier for this particular shoot. And it's kind of like, if you remember, I think it was last week, wasn't it, when we retouched Di Edwards' portrait? Same thing with her when she was sat next to the double patio doors which lead out into her garden. Beautiful light coming in. Why use a light and a softbox when you're getting the real light naturally? You know, don't complicate things. So that's the lighting, really simple. And like I said, the actual description and all the stuff I used for the other picture I've done of Di as well, which I'm not going to go through tonight, but there's a kind of like a write-up I've done on that in the description on the blog. The link to that is in the description part of this. But let's get into the retouching. All right, let's have a look at some of the retouching and take you through some of the steps. But first of all, let's have a look at the final image and also the layers that go into it, because there are quite a few layers. I can't zoom in as I do this. It kind of doesn't really work when you're doing this live, but hopefully the resolution is going to be okay for you. But you can see here quite a few layers, and I'm going to go through, like I said, a few sections on this, and I'm just going to go through and turn these off and just keep an eye on the photograph of Di, the picture of Di, to see how each of these start to change things. So there's all manner of stuff. There's a lot of dodging and burning that I've done, playing around with color, selections. This is one thing I really want to show you. This is a game changer, total game changer. Because there is artificial intelligence, you know, Adobe's generative fill is used in this image, but only in 2 areas. The majority of this is all manual retouching, but there's 2 areas where I think this is where AI is incredibly useful, massive time saver. And it doesn't take away from what you and I do as photographers. It helps, okay? It really, really does help. And I know AI is a controversial topic. But let's just carry on going down here just a little bit more. We've got color blending, we've got the cutout. You can see, let's just go past all these bits here. And then there's this freaky details thing. There's dodging and burning and all sorts of other things as well, which takes us down to the original image. So what I'll do is I'll turn all these back on. And what I've got is I've got tabs here set up so that we can go through certain parts. Now this here, this is the mountain range that I put into the reflection on Di's glasses. And this is not an image that I've gone to somewhere like Adobe Stock to download. All right, so I haven't kind of gone there, typed in mountains and downloaded it. I wanted to use everything within Photoshop to do this particular picture. So this image here is made by artificial intelligence. So let me just show you how I did that. Very, very simple. I'll just create a new document. And what I'll do, now that I've got that document, I'm just going to, let's just shift this out of the way over there. What I'll do with that document there is I'm going to press Command A to select it. Now, if you can see it, you'll probably just notice there are marching ants going around this entire document, which is what I need. Then I'm going to go to the Generative Fill contextual text box here. And all I'll do is I'll type in snow-covered mountains. And this is all I did. Got me spelling correct. All I did when it came to doing it. So I'll press snow-covered mountains and click on generate. Now, obviously, when we're using the AI, you know, there's a lot of talk about it. It's low resolution, all that kind of stuff. It's not really usable. It is beta, all right? We haven't got the full finished version where it's all going to be high res and all be great to use. But the great thing is with this here, because I'm only using it in a small part of the picture, it doesn't have to be great because I'm going to blur it anyway. The low resolution side of things, I'm completely fine with. No problem with that whatsoever. But you can see here already, the AI has given me a few options here. Now, I could probably change it by typing in snow-covered mountains, French Alps, and it would give me a different kind of result. And obviously, what we can do is we can keep generating to get something that we actually like. As luck would have it, when I was doing this, did I put mountains? That's probably why I came up with that, Brian. I've just seen what you're saying there. Mountains. All right. Okay. Well, you get the idea. Let's just close that one down there for a second. Right. So when I did this for real, this is what I ended up with. So that was that sort of things there. But let's have a look at this cutout, because this is what I want to show you where AI is so useful. And this was purely found out by me kind of thinking, I wonder if, or what would happen if, and that's what I encourage everybody to do when they're doing this stuff is, you know, just experiment. If it works, great. If it doesn't, hey ho, no problem. But let me just show you this. This is the cutout I've done of Dai, and I've actually put the background behind him. So you can see there's the original background with the car parcel shelf and what have you. But I've done the cutout. And if I just zoom in a little bit, and we'll have a look at this, let's have a look at the layer mask. So that's the layer mask. We've got the hat, and we've got this kind of area here, which was really hard to work on. Really, really hard to work on. And what that is this bit. If I zoom in, you can see here that Dai has got these dark beard hairs, okay, on that side against the dark background, and also on this side. Very, very hard and very challenging to actually make a good selection of that. Now, I do have videos on my YouTube channel where I've shown how you can cheat it by using hair from other images or making brushes and bring it in. But check this out. This just blew me away. Watch this. All I'm going to do is just get the lasso tool. Okay, let's just zoom in a little bit so you can see a bit clearer. I'm going to get the lasso tool, work on this side of the image first of all, and I'm just going to make a very loose selection around the area here where that kind of hair would be. Okay, and I'm going to come in just a little bit just to include some of it just there. And Lee, you're dead right. I did see that you said, and in your book. Oh, let's have a look over here. Right, so there's my selection. Now I'm going to go to the generative fill text, the contextual text bar here. I'm going to click on generative fill, and I'm not going to type anything. I'm just going to click on generate, and let's just see what it does. All right, so give that a little while. It might not work first time. We might have to generate it again and again and again. But when I was doing this, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. This is where I think it's incredibly useful to have AI. I mean, you know, let's just dive me out. Look at this, look. There's the first one. That would definitely pass, okay? You could definitely use that. And we've got this one here. Look, I mean, look, there's hair. There's actually hair been put in place that I could use. Absolutely fantastic. And I'd say, right, let's just say we're happy with that one there. I'll go with it. I'll come over to the other side. And bearing in mind now, this is something that you would have to do. This isn't really a creative task when you're creating your pictures. Doing selections and cutouts and making them work is a labor of love. It really, really is. But if we can do this, if we can use AI to help us with this, game on, absolutely game on. So there's our selection there. I'll just click on generative fill and I'll just click on generate. And again, we'll just give it some time just to see what it can do. How can it help us by just faking the look, by making more hair. I think this is absolutely incredible. So it's all kind of coming through. Any second now we'll get the and there we go. Oh my God, it's just fantastic. Look, this is just experimenting now, but look, some of that works really well, like that one, and you got that one there. I mean, look, if I zoom in, I mean, come on, how good is that? That absolutely works amazing, absolutely amazing. So you can see why I think that works great. Now I've got a comment here. Let's just get me out of the way. Would the remove tool get similar issues with the beard hair? Not quite sure what you mean there. Not quite sure what you mean, but let me have a think of it and I'll come back to that towards the end. But there you go. That's just using the generative fill. Again, just experimenting to see how that would help us out. And I think you can agree that is a huge help when it comes to doing selections and cutouts. But just quickly moving on in regards to this little bit here, there were some other things that I did to help with this image to make it blend in. Because if you look at Dai's skin tone and the actual kind of warmth of his beard and the hat, it doesn't really match much with the background. So a very simple way that we can do that to help things to match is this. I'll just go back to my original mountain image here and I'll click and drag on top of the original image and place it in. So now it's at the top of the layer stack. Let me just zoom out. I'll free transform this and just make it really big. It doesn't matter the fact that I'm stretching it all out and maybe the resolution is going. It's the color that we want in this. So now that I've got that, we'll just go to filter, blur, and average blur. And that's just going to basically just get that layer with all those details in, mash it all together and give us an average color across the whole thing. And that's what this blue is here. So now what we can do with that is we'll change the blend mode to color. And I'm going to take it down to something like 20% opacity. But even now, obviously, that blue layer here, the average blur layer, is on everything, not just Dai, but also the background. So we need it to be just on Dai himself. So very, very easy to do. We've got all the masking here. We've got the original mask of Dai there. Then we've got the bits of the beard. So all I will do is I will hold down the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows and click on that particular layer there to load the selection of dye, and then we'll just add a layer mask. You can see here the average blur layer is active, and I'll add a layer mask. Now that I've done that, the blue is only on dye, but we need to add it onto these extra bits that we created. So I'll just hold down the Command key and click on one of them to load that side just there, and I'll fill that with white. And I can do that by either going to the Edit menu, choosing Fill, and from the drop down here, just choose White and click OK. Or if I do it on the other side here, let's just load that other side that we made. I can just press, I've got the foreground color of white, so I'm going to hold down the Option key on Mac, it'll be Alt key on Windows, and press Backspace, and that fills it in as well. So now look, if we turn that off and on, let's just get rid of the selection, off and on, there you can see now the color of dye is kind of blending a little bit more. We could maybe take it down to 10% opacity, but it kind of takes the warmth out of him, so it kind of helps him to blend in. I mean, there's many ways you can do that in compositing to help things to blend the foreground with the background. This is kind of like a down and dirty way, but it works. You know what I mean? It does what you want it to do. All right. So that's one little bit I want to show you there. The next bit I want to show you is to do with the glasses. Now, these aren't in any particular order because you can see now that the original background is there. There's no cutout. I just thought it'd be interesting just to do these nice and quickly. Now, what I've done is I've made a selection already of the glasses when I was doing this originally, and you can see that I've saved that in the actual channels panel. And you can see if I just Command click on that channel there, you can see that it loads them all in. So let's just cancel that for a second, because what I did was I added the actual reflection of the mountains in. Let me just quickly show you how I did that, because there are some things within there that you've kind of seen, but you may not have noticed. All right, and I'll explain what I mean. So let me go back to this mountain scene here. I'm going to put half of this picture into one lens, half into the other lens. All right, and the way I'll do that, first of all, let's go to View, and we'll go to Guides, and I'll have a new guide. And in here, rather than using pixels, I'll just put 50% where it says vertical and click OK. So that gives me a guide right down the middle there. I'll then get the rectangular marquee tool and drag out a selection, and it snaps onto that side there. So I've selected the exact half of the actual mountain range. And I'll put this on its own layer by holding down the Command key on Mac, Control key on Windows, and pressing J. So that layer is just on top. I'll get the Move tool, and I'm just going to drag this up onto the glasses image and then let go. So there's the glasses image. Now, it's really important when I do this, and whenever you do this in the future, that when you bring that in, you hold down the Shift key as you bring it in, and it places that dead center in the layer. And if you look in the Layers panel, you can see there it is, right in the middle, just there. And that's massively important for what we're now going to do. Because what I'm now going to do is go to the Filter menu, choose Distort and Pinch. Now, this is quite an old filter within Photoshop, but it is really, really useful. I need to zoom out so you can see what's going on, and we'll just put there. So if I just bring it over, let's zoom all the way out again, something like that. And I'll take it to 0, like so. So this is it normal. Now, look, if I go to the right, it kind of warps it backwards. If I go to the left, it bulges it forwards. All right, so back and forward, back and forward. Now, what I noticed was when I looked at that original Hancock poster for the movie, when Will Smith is wearing those glasses, there is a distortion in the reflection of what he's supposedly seeing, and it kind of bends it backwards. It's just the way that the refraction or whatever within the lenses is working. So what I did in my image was exactly the same thing. All I did was just take it all the way to 100 and then click OK. And look what it does with the actual layer here. So it's really kind of warped it out. That one there, I'll just drag and place it over that particular lens. Right, now let's go back to the original mountains, and we'll get rid of that one. We don't need that side. We now want the other side. So I'll get the rectangular marquee tool, drag that out to snap into the middle, and then press Command or Control J to put that up onto its own layer, and then drag this one now back into the image, holding down the Shift key, then releasing, and again you can see it places it right in the middle of that layer. Again, massively important. We'll go to the Filter menu. We don't need to go to Distort. The last one we used is right up at the top, so I'll just click on it. So it will actually distort it exactly the same amount as what the other one was done. get the move tool, drag it across and position it somewhere like so. All right, let's put both of these into a group, keep things nice and tidy. We'll go new group from layers, and I'll just put mountain, not mountain, Brian, mountain reflection. There we go. Then we'll get the channels, and we'll hold down the command key to load the glasses selection like so, and just add a layer mask. So that kind of drops them in. And the great thing is now, although that doesn't look, it's obviously not finished, what we can do is in here, we can click on them, we can resize them, we can reposition them and what have you. So that's just kind of like a very quick way that I did that. Lee, I've just seen what you've saying just there, your quick comment saying you thought it would have bulged out, not in. I totally get what you're saying, mate. But I noticed if you look at the Hancock poster, all right, it does seem to go in. So I was just being lazy and copying. That's all it was, just copying exactly what I saw in there. But yeah, if you wanted it to go the other way, then you just go the slider the opposite way. All right, so next thing's here then. Let's have a quick look. The next thing I'll do now is, right, I needed to add in kind of like, in fact, this is the thing that took the longest on the whole picture. It took me a long, long time to do this. Dodging and burning to get these glasses to appear to have a bit of shape and a bit of a shine and what have you. So I'll just quickly show you how I did that. I'll add a new layer, a new blank layer to the top of the layer stack. And let's just drag this out the way over there. There we go. So yeah, new layer, top of the layer stack. We'll go to the channels and I'm going to load that selection in. So you can see now the glasses selection is active, and I'm going to press Shift and Backspace to bring up the fill dialog menu, and we'll choose 50% grey and click OK. So that's now got the grey. We can use the grey for dodging and burning. I've done so many videos on that, but it's really, really useful for this. Okay, first thing then, let's just add a little bit of an outer rim to these so it looks like the lenses are sitting within the frame. I'll use the FX panel here and we'll go to, let's go to inner glow. There you go, straight away, that's the kind of thing it gives us there. So ordinarily inner glow, you'd have a white color in the actual color picker. It would say screen, but just change it. I changed it to black, and then we got multiply, and we can change all of this, how these look in here like so. And it kind of needs that. You need to have something where it looks like it's sitting within the frame. And obviously, this is surrealistic. The intention here isn't to make this look completely realistic, because if it was, bearing in mind the picture's taken directly in front of Di, you would see me in the lenses. So this is a surrealistic picture. All right, so that's that kind of thing there. And then simply, because we've got this grey layer using the soft light blend mode, which we'll use in a moment, I can get the dodge and burn tools and start to play around with these to add shape into the light. So let's have a look here. I'm going to make a little bit in the middle, and we'll just press down. I've got my exposure. Let's take the exposure down to 30%, and I'll just drag around the middle like so. To brighten the middle up, I'll make the brush bigger, keep going out, a bit bigger again, and keep going out, something like that. I'll do the same in the other lens, just over here. So brush down. And they're not going to be exactly the same, the actual brightness on these, because bearing in mind this side of the picture is what's going to be in shadow. Well, obviously it wasn't as lit. The light was coming from this particular side here. So now we've got that, we can start playing around. And like I said, this is exactly what I did. Just took my time. I deleted so many layers trying to get this right. So I took a long time doing this. But we can switch over to the burn tool. I don't need to manually come over and change it over here. While I'm using one tool, I can just hold down the Alt key on Mac, or sorry, the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows, and it automatically changes what I'm using to the other one. So we can start to play around just to add in some shading, some lights, some highlights, and what have you. All right, so let's just very, very quickly add this in here. Start to add just a little bit of shape into this stuff. All right, like that. So that's probably enough just on there for the minute, because obviously now we want to see what it looks like when we actually show what's underneath all this. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to, I'll change the blend mode to soft light. Bearing in mind, in the actual final image, with these being a reflection in there, I did blur the actual mountains in the glasses just a little bit, so they're not quite as sharp as what you see them in here. Right, so let's just turn that dodging and burning on and off. So that's what that does for us there. And once I'd got this, I'd kind of, I just played. I literally just played. I increased the exposure so it's giving me a little bit more punch. And I just came in and started playing around with highlights, shadows, using the dodge and burn tools like so. All right. So again, I'm just going really quickly to give you an idea of the tools and the techniques that we used to create this. And if you just take your time doing this, really is one of those things that you can't really rush dodging and burning. Just take your time doing it, because very quickly you can overdo it. You really, really can. So just take your time, play around with it like so. Now, if I just dive back over quickly to the original picture, there's just a couple of things to mention about the glasses that you probably won't have noticed. You'll have definitely noticed that there was this sun flare here. That was done just using a plugin. That was Luminar Neo. I used their sun ray filter. If you click on edit in Luminar, you then got so many options when it comes to actually making sun rays, which is really, really good. But also, let's have a quick look. If I turn it on there, there we go. Right, if I zoom in, can you see this bit here? Look, it's kind of like weird stuff in the lens just there. Now, what that is, you've kind of seen it, but you haven't really noticed it. That there, if you look at when somebody's got glasses on, mirror reflective glasses, they reflect back what you see, but also there's almost like these secondary reflections that kind of like these little bits. I added those in as well, which you probably didn't notice. But that's what I love about retouching. It's the small things that you do that make the big difference. All right. So that's the kind of thing I did with the glasses just there. There were other things I did. I added tint to the glasses as well. That was just using a solid color. So, you know, nothing major to do with that one. But right, let's just jump away from the glasses. This is the next stage I want to show you. This here, I love this. This bit here is, again, dodging and burning, because I think it was Guy Brennan, a guy called Guy Brennan. I don't know if he's in the chat. If you are, Guy, just give us a mention in the room just there. He wanted to know, how did I create what almost looks like a HDR-ish effect, okay? And also how to make it look like it's coming forward and really punchy. A lot of it is dodging and burning, but there's also a technique I'm going to show you now. If I just dive out and show you this here, look, this is a grey layer at the top of the layer stack. If I turn it off and on, look at what happens to Dai's face, all right? So off, on, off, on. So there's quite a lot of dodging and burning. And if I show you that layer, you can see there, look, highlights and shadows, and quite extreme, because I really did want it to really have it impact and look as if it was kind of really feel the shape and the contour and make it look as if it's coming forward. So there's quite a lot in there. Dodging and burning allows us to do so much. I actually did a little bit on the hat just by playing around with highlights and shadows. And in fact, if I just get the dodge tool now, and I'll take it down to say 30%. I mean, look what I can do with the hat here, very, very simply. We know that this here has got a bit of shape to it because there's highlights, shadows, and highlights. Look, if I can exaggerate these, look, where there's a highlight, I'm just going to brush over it with the dodge tool. Next to it, there's a shadow, so I'll use the burn tool. Then there's a highlight, and I'll brush over that. And then there's a shadow. Now, you might not really notice what's happened there until I turn it on and off. Look at the hat now when I turn this layer on and off. Can you see how it kind of exaggerates the folds just by adding highlights and shadows? And that's all we're doing. Bearing in mind now, when we look at an image on the screen is flat. How do we know, apart from what our brain is telling us, that there's actually shape in there and it's not somebody who's completely flat? It's all down to highlights and shadows. And we can really kind of exploit those when we're doing dodging and burning. But one thing I want to show you is this, first of all. I want to show you the details technique, but also a bit of dodging and burning on the beard. This is a great technique if you ever work on hair. I use this a lot. All I'm going to do is go to the adjustment layers, and I'm going to choose any adjustment layer. Doesn't matter which one I choose. And this one here just happens to be a levels adjustment. I'm going to change that from normal to multiply. And obviously that darkens down everything. It's got a layer mask attached to it, and I'm going to invert it by holding down the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows and pressing I. Then I'm going to get a brush, and the brush is going to be in white. So I'm going to reveal now what I've just done, but I'm not going to reveal it at full strength. I'm going to take the opacity of this brush down to maybe something like 20%. And all I'm going to do now with this brush is start to brush over the dark areas within Dai's beard. Okay, so some areas just here. It's almost like giving, is it called highlights or lowlights when they exaggerate these? It's been a long time since I've been to the hairdressers. So something like that. So that's that side of things. That's the dodging done. So that's the burning done. Let's now do the dodging. I'm going to add another layer, another adjustment layer. Again, doesn't matter which one it is. And I'll change the blend mode of this one to screen. I'll invert the layer mask so it hides it. I've got my brush, white foreground color, and all I'll do now is very quickly brush over some of the brighter areas within Dai's beard. All right, very, very quick, down and dirty way of doing some dodging and burning. But look, if I put both of these layers now into a group, we'll call this Dodge and Burn, DB, and Beard. and we'll turn that off and on, off and on. Okay, so it's a very, very quick way of doing that. I'm always doing that with hair. It's really, really good way of shaping hair and giving hair a little bit more punch. So I like that one. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to show you this freaky, amazing details technique, which is the one that I used to do a lot when I was with, when we used to do quite a lot of work with Calvin Hollywood. Right, I'm going to first of all create a merged layer at the top of the layer stack, and I'm going to create another one. So we've got two merged layers, okay? Both of these layers here I'm going to put into a group. Let's go new group from layers, and we'll call it FAD, Freaky Amazing Details. I did not come up with this technique. Calvin Hollywood used to show it, but it was actually made by a guy called Olaf Gearman, who's a friend of Calvin's and a friend of mine, an incredibly intelligent man who's also an amazing artist. Okay, so what do we need to do then? First of all, with this group here, I'm going to change the blend mode of the group to overlay. Then I'm going to open the group up, and only working on this top layer here, I'm going to change the blend mode of this one here to vivid light. Then I'm going to invert it by holding down Command on Mac or Control on Windows and pressing I. And then what I'm going to do, I mean, who would have thought of doing this? It's just incredible. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filter and Convert for Smart Filters, all right, so that I can make adjustments to this later on. But then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and Surface Blur. Now, this is the freaky thing about it. We're adding blur to add detail. And the reason for that is we've inverted a layer. So when we invert the layer, pretty much we're saying whatever filter we're using, getting it to do the opposite of what it ordinarily would. So we're using surface blur, but that's going to be surface details. All right. So we'll bring up surface blur. All right. So let's just drag this across so we can kind of see what it's going to be doing. Now, the radius here, there's two settings, radius and threshold. Radius is going to tell you, or you dictate how much detail you want to bring back into your image. Threshold is going to control kind of like the haloing that would go on. All right. Kind of like haloing that would go on. So let's have a look here. So I've got this one set to around about 45, 46, and the threshold at 15. You could just go crazy. Let's just bring this over just a little bit more. Where can we go? Let's just zoom out a bit so I find a better part of Dai's beard. Let's go for that. Oh, yeah, that middle part. Just there. So if I increase it, let's see if it does it. Surface blur is a really processor-intensive filter. But actually, let's just leave it at 40 and then click OK. Hopefully, this will show up OK. We'll click OK on it, let it process it, give it a bit of time. You can see here that it does, you know, no matter how good your computer is, it's going to take a bit of work. And bearing in mind, we are also streaming and all that sort of stuff as well. Let's give this a little bit of time to come across. And hopefully, when I turn this layer on and off, or this group rather, you'll be able to see how it's added details. Of course, there are third-party plugins that you can get. But if you're getting a great result from stuff that's already within Photoshop, why do you need to buy a plugin? And it is very different as well to clarity and texture. All right, so there we go. That's that done. I'm going to close the group down and zoom in. Now look, if I turn it off and on, hopefully you see it. You can see it more on the skin actually. Look at his skin here. Hopefully that's showing up. We go before, after, before, after. I absolutely love that. It is such a cool technique when it comes to doing, you know, adding detail. And if you look back in my old portfolio, the stuff that I used to do, you know, years ago, this technique was used every single time. Another technique that was used on this image as well, just so that you know, was my 2010. So as well as using the dodging and burning, the 2010 technique. And in the description, I will add that if you haven't seen it. So that's that. And the last section I want to quickly show you was the finishing touches. Let's just dive over to this last tab just here. All right, so we've got finishing touches like so. So this is almost at the point of being finished. So you can see there are other things that have been done to this image, adding in light coming in from different places and all that kind of stuff. And on that note, I'm like this, because there is a lot involved in this retouching. If you would like me to record a full A to Z or A to Z retouching of this picture, let me know. Let me know in the comments, email me, whatever. And if you do want me to do that, I will record everything step by step and make that available, because there's a lot that goes into this and it is a lot of fun, All right, so let's have a quick look at the last little things that I did here for the finishing touches. Something that I haven't used for a while. It's kind of like my waxy, cartoonish kind of look. Actually, just Joe Bolton just said, what's the 2010? Joe, I will put a link in the description. You will love it. And it is, I think, Tim, my friend Tim's just said it as well. It's not just for portraits. I've had people using it on landscapes and they love it. So look out for that in the description. All right, let's just dive off. Okay, so I added like a waxy look to this picture here. And the way I do that is this. I'm going to create a merged layer to the top of the layer stack. Or let's just do that there. Wait for it to come in. And this is, I'm going to call this waxy. I think in the videos I've done before, it's called cartoonish kind of look. Very, very simple look. But this technique works for this image. It definitely works for this image. I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Reduce Noise. This is what gives the images those cartoonish kind of look. I just love the look this gives. And in fact, as a bit of a side note, when I first met Di, and I'll explain this after we've done the retouch in more detail, I met Di when the very first veteran that I photographed, okay, for my 39 to 45 portraits project. And Di came along to the exhibition. And the reason I mention that is because at the exhibition, all the veterans' portraits had this particular technique applied to them during the retouching. And it kind of emphasizes the skin, okay? So what happened more than once when people were walking around the exhibition and they saw these portraits of these veterans, every single one was saying, oh, it's amazing. You feel like you can reach out and touch the skin. You almost feel like you could feel it. That is because of this technique. The 2010 was involved, but this technique as well, all right? It's really simple. So you go to Reduce Noise Filter. So Filter, Noise, Reduce Noise. And there's 4 sliders. All you need to do for it is put the strength to 10, and then every other slider here at 0. So strength at 10, that at 0. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the preview, on the sort of streaming that you're getting here, but here we've got the preview, and if I press down and release, you can see what that's actually doing to it. You're going to have to try it in your own pictures it's just so good. It really, really is for adding texture and a real feel to skin. So I'll click OK. Now, once that's done, one thing I always followed up with after I'd done that was, first of all, to limit it so that it wasn't on the background as well. I only want it to be on Di. So, as we know, we add a black layer mask, get a brush, and then reveal the contents of that layer there by painting with a white brush. So if I just very quickly paint at 100% opacity, very quickly, obviously, that now means that effect is only on Di. And you can see that in the layer mask over on the right-hand side just there. And the way I kind of finished it off afterwards is, again, one last merged layer at the top of the layer stack, filter, sharpen, unsharp mask, and one final bit of contrast. I did use the 2010 on this technique, on this image before. For this final bit of punch, I'd use, again, 20. I only do one of these. So radius 20, amount 20, threshold at 0, click OK. I only want that contrast on Di. So rather than me adding a layer mask and brushing and copying it all in, I can use this layer mask here. If I hold down the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows, I can click on that mask, drag and drop to put it up onto the same one there. Again, of course, I could also put both of those layers into a group, then add a mask and then brush it in to reveal both contents. But that kind of shows that just there. So yeah, there's a lot of retouching. I've seen already that there's comments coming in saying that people would like to see the A to Z. That will be done. Okay, that will be done. So I shall definitely do that. Oh, this is already. Oh, bless you. God, we haven't seen each other for ages. How are you? So yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so I'll definitely do that now. Right, well, I'm going to live dangerously. I am going to live dangerously. I haven't done a print of this image. There's a video I want to show you. But what I'm going to do is, while that video's playing, we're going to get a print done. I haven't done one, and if it works, fingers crossed, because this is living dangerously. If it does work, Di, I know that you're there. I'm going to get this posted up to you. So let's have a quick look. Let's have a look. First of all, let's go back to my. In fact, I'll change my mic in a moment. Let's go over to my desktop, and I'll bring up Lightroom. Okay, so that's that image just there, and we're going to go to File, Plugin Extras, and I'm going to use the Canon Professional Print and Layout software. All right, so bring that up. That should come up hopefully. There we go. Cool. Let's just rotate it around, and let's have a look at the settings over here. Just very quickly. A4 paper. We're using A4. Contrast reproduction is going to be on. Right, okay, the paper I'm going to use, let's have a quick look at the paper. I'm going to quickly move, let's put myself over here. Hold on 1 second. Right, over at the side of the room there is where I keep all my paper. Now, this one here is FB Pearl, all right, FB Pearl. It's made by Permajet. And the reason I'm going to use this one is I haven't got any more metallic-y kind of paper, and this one's going to have a bit of punch to it, which this image definitely needs. It can't be done on like a matte paper. It's got to be one that's got a bit of punch. Now, Permajet do loads of papers. Something like titanium, that would really work really well for something like this, but I've only got this one here. Now, when I use it with that printer, you have to tell the printer the equivalent paper type. So let's just quickly jump back to my screen here. And the equivalent paper type is this one here, Photo Paper Pro Platinum. That's one of Canon's papers. And the reason you do that very quickly is so that the printer knows how high to lift the print head so that you don't get what they call print head strikes on the paper. So it knows how to lift it. And it also knows what ink to use on it. Because a lot of printers now, they have photo black and matte black. When you choose the correct media type, it knows, you're printing on this kind of paper. I need to use this kind of black. All right. So I'm going to put this in the printer. All right. Now this is living dangerously. I've got 2 warning lights on the printer to tell me that the ink's low. Right. So I'm going to press print. Let's have a look here. Press print and press OK. Right, that is now happening. So let me just dive back to me. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to play you this video that I recorded when we were on top of Carningley mountain with Di. Okay, because there's a reason why I took this picture of Di. Not only is Di a very dear friend, someone I've only known for maybe 4 years, but he's just one of those people. He's just one of life's good people. You know what I mean? He's an absolute star. Like I said, I met him when I was first started this Veterans Project. We'd not seen each other in person since the exhibition, which was November 2019. So catching up with him, with Anthony as well, was just an amazing experience. I'm going to play this video for you. Please watch it because it's very relevant as to why we went where we did and why I ended up doing this picture. So I'm going to play that for you right now. And you maybe can see that printer is now kicking into action. So hopefully that'll be done when you come back. So let me just play this for you now.
It's a hike in the French Alps. So we're going to take, it's 120 miles circular from a small village that I don't know the name of. It's taken in 12,000 meters of elevation around that 120 miles. It's a 9 to 12 day hike, depending on how fit you are. So it'll probably be about 14 days for me with these little legs. But yeah, that's basically it. Just get out there, get some headspace and get away from the world for a few weeks.
Okay, so why are you doing it?
Well, it's for self-gratitude to be able to say you've done it. It's for freedom, headspace, getting out of the world for a couple of weeks, seeing sights that need to be seen. But for me, this one is, I lost a friend of mine a few months back, very good friend, Mr. Gareth Allen. And he's inspired me on, over the last 12 months, definitely with mountains that I've been on when I can't move on, too tired, too lazy. I think of the things that he's had to go through, and it puts things in perspective and makes you think you just move your ass.
Do you mind saying what happened to Gareth?
Yeah, well, where we are today, this is the last walk that him and his wife Annie took. Last July, he come on a walk up here. He then said, I want to be as fit as you, he said, by the time I'm 50, which was in the November of last year. So I said, I don't do walking for fitness. I get fit because I do walk. I like being in these places, and with that comes fitness, which is a great bonus. So anyway, 3 weeks after that walk, I messaged him then and said, do you fancy a walk? He had an unrelated problem in his stomach, was going for a scan. 6 weeks after the walk, he's phoning me telling me then that he's got lung cancer, primary lung cancer and secondary in the throat. And basically 9 months later from that, then he's dead. Took him out within 9 months. So in his trials through his cancer, I was obviously still climbing mountains, sending him videos off the top of mountains. And like I said, when I was in a hole thinking I can't move on, this is too hard, my legs are aching, my back's aching, think of what he's going through for a second, and it's like, just shut up and move. You're only tired. Don't be such a baby, you know. Get on and do it. And
where we are now, tell us what this place is then. What's its real name, and what are you now calling it?
Yeah, well, we're in Newport now. This is Carningley Rock, and obviously because this is the last place that I walked with Gareth, a few people in work, because it's Gareth Allen, it's G. Allen, so a few people in work used to call him Gallon. So this now, for me, this is Gallon Rock. It can be nothing else, can it? It has to be that. Okay, so I guess last thing is you're doing this walk, and you're doing it also for a charity. Yeah.
What is the charity that you're doing this for?
Yeah, it just came to me the other day. I thought I asked Annie and the kids if I could dedicate the walk to Gareth, because that'll be, like I said earlier, I know if it was just for me, I'd do 2 days, pack my bags and come home. I'm knackered, I can't do it anymore. But when it's for something or for somebody, it gives you that inspiration of, you know, when you've had 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 days sleeping in a hedge, it's a reason to get out of that sleeping bag, isn't it? So, yeah, it just came to me the other day on a walk then that Gareth's been a massive surfer all of his life. Probably the best surfer in the world, he'll have, you know. And his charity that he pushed and pushed and pushed was Surfers Against Sewage. He's loved that all his life, as long as I can remember. So that's who I thought, well, while I'm doing it, I might as well, it's only the point of putting a tag on a post, and hopefully if people take the link, give a couple of quid, it can only be for a good cause, can't it? But more for me, thinking, move your ass. If people are paying money, then you've got to get your ass around that walk.
Alrighty, so yeah, you can see now why Di, what I think of Di, you know, the way I do. He's just an incredible guy. But what I didn't realise when we initially spoke, when I saw that Di was going to be doing this walk, I didn't realise that the guy he was on about was actually a guy that had been at the exhibition, which is just unbelievable. It's just really, really sad. The fact that I said to Di when we were with him, I've got pictures of him. So I came back home straight away, looked on my computer, and sure enough, those are the images there that you would have seen come up. So listen, folks, I've put that link to that in the description part. Now, I know that we're always being asked for donating money. We see it all and hear it all the time. But when I look at the numbers that come in on this, it's phenomenal. It's really humbling to see the amount of people that watch live and then watch afterwards. Can you imagine if each and every person put £1 or $1, how much would be made? So it's just a thought. You know what I mean? The thought's there, not a problem. There's no onus or anything like that. It's just I thought I'd let you know about it. But this machine is finishing off. Let's have a quick look over here, and then it's time for some questions. Bearing in mind now, I've never printed this. This was living on the edge. Check this out. Get in there. Look at that. That is amazing. Absolutely fabulous. Di, that is on its way to you, mate. That is on its way. In fact, I might even see if I can get some of that titanium paper. That would look really cool. But yeah, very, very happy with that. There you go. No smoke and mirrors. That was done live. But there you go. So right now, we've got time for some questions. I know there's been quite a few things going on in the chat room there. It's been really, really busy, which is just amazing. Hold on a second. Let's have a quick look at it. Di, I don't know if you've seen the chat at all, but there's some lovely comments coming in. My friend Philip there, what a chap. Tim's obviously responding to it there. There's loads of comments, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, wonderful. Right, I'm going to bring my friend in. Hopefully the technology is going to work. I've got Anthony in the wings who can hopefully hear me, okay, when I bring him in. Let's just see if I can bring him in. Let's see. There he is. Right. Hopefully, I've got to put my headphones on as well so I can hear him. All righty. So, Anthony, can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate. Can you hear me back?
I can hear you. So, yeah, cool.
All good. All good.
Thanks for joining me. Folks, if you saw last week, you probably noticed quite a difference now with Anthony. He's got a fantastic new camera for his webcam. And also, he's brought the microphone closer, which sounds really, really cool.
I had camera envy when we were up on Gallon Rock, which is the correct name, which Di has put in the chat. Is Gallon Rock now.
It's called Gallon Rock. Perfect. All right, brilliant.
So,
well, listen, can you, Brian, you sweetheart. Brian, can you, sorry, Anthony, questions then, mate. Can you just let me know if there are any that I can answer now and then ones that I could maybe have a look at later on? So what ones are kind of really standing out to you?
There's not that many that you probably need to answer now, mate. There was a couple come in from Lee Churchill.
All right, okay.
I
remember answering one at the time from Lee. Is that this one here where it says about you? Oh, would it have been better with a white or different colour background, or would you get the same issue? I guess, Lee, you're on about the actual cutout of Di there. With Di being the dark beard, it would have definitely been easier on a white background. But again, living dangerously, using the old material parcel shelf in the car. I might actually, Anthony, that's not a bad idea. We could have some clips in the back of the car and some white material. I don't know. Maybe I'm going above myself here. Who knows? So that's that one. Anything else, mate?
Paul Genge had a question for you.
Oh, my mate Paul. Let's have a look here. Good old Paul Genge. Phototech. So Paul's asking, when is AI coming off beta in a full version? It's a really good question, Paul, and it's one that's been asked quite a lot now. We've got Adobe Max coming up in, where are we now, August, in 2 months' time. So that is ordinarily the time when there's all the new sneak peeks of all the software and some major updates. I'd be very surprised if it was released full version then. But hey, you never know. But I wouldn't think it's going to be that long. So long as, I think what speeds the process up is that whenever we use this generative fill, we get the option there to say a thumbs up, thumbs down, and also suggestions what it was good and what was bad about it. That kind of information's there. Adobe thrive on, because that helps them to know if they need to tweak things a little bit better. But I don't know if anybody else has noticed using it. I'm getting some much better results with it first time round, very quickly now. So yes, get some good stuff with that. Okay, mate. Anthony, any others that I need to be aware of? We've got some lovely comments coming in.
Yeah, there's some great comments. And with regard to the full tutorial, can I add my vote to that one as well, please? I'd like the full tutorial.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll do.
There was a couple of questions in. Now I got to try and get this right. From 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐁𝐞 81. I believe you answered one of the questions, but there was two questions.
Okay. So the ones I've got from I've got, why don't you flatten and blur? I'm not sure where that's going to be. What point was that? I can see that you've mentioned flatten. I'm going to say because I want to keep the layers. I don't know exactly where it was, but you'll notice in that when I showed you all the layers in the final retouch, they're all very nicely labelled and stuff like that. Can I just add that doesn't happen in reality? The only reason that's like that is so that I know what I'm showing you. So before this happened, while me and Anthony were practicing and stuff like that, I was labelling all those layers and those groups so I could say it. So it doesn't normally go that way. I do notice there's another question here, Anthony, from the same person. Can you use plugin like Lumenzia or Tia to be more specific in dodging and banding? Yeah, you could. There are many things that you can do in Photoshop that can also be done in third-party plugins. Do you know what I mean? And if you've got those and you prefer to use them, crack on. The great thing about this is, and I say this all the time, is that it doesn't matter how you get the result that you want, as long as you get the result that you want. The techniques that you use, the way that you go about things, it makes no difference. The only time it really matters is when you are working to a time limit and it's a paid job, I would suggest. Do you know what I mean? Where you want to get things done as efficiently as possible. Some of the techniques I use involve a lot of steps, and I know there are plugins that I could use where I could just go like that. But I still enjoy it. There was a time a long time ago when I first started out using Photoshop, and I was studying it all the time. I kept a notebook and was making notes every time I learned something. But then plugins started to come out and I was using them again and again and again. And I found that my skill level in Photoshop started to drop. So I got rid of loads of plugins and started to relearn stuff. So I'm kind of like midway with that now. I use them, but not all the time. I like to play around with them as well. But Anthony, I guess that's probably enough for this. I can always have a look at these afterwards as well to see if there's anything.
There might be one or two worth going back in the comments, Glenn, but you covered them all for this evening, I think.
Brilliant stuff. Anthony, again, thank you very much. This is his Virgin flight with his new camera, and I think it looks amazing. Really, really good, mate. That's a ZVE10, I believe. So, yeah,
absolutely. Right. And so shout out to Chris at Command & Cameras, mate. He looked after it.
Chris at Command & Cameras. Top man. Right, Anthony, thanks very much. I'll give you a shout afterwards. I think me, you, and Brian are going to have a bit of a Zoom chat about another road trip. So I'll catch you. Thank you very much, mate. Cheers.
Look forward to it.
All righty, let's just take these off. Right, the last thing that I want to kind of go through. Oh, look at that. How happy am I with that? The last thing to mention before we disappear is this. I've got a quick graphic to show you. Something new's coming up. We've got Photoshop World 2023. This is the event that I used to love going to in America. The online version. The next one's coming up September the 5th to the 7th. 25 instructors, 2 classes each, plus all of the pre-con stuff as well. So you're talking at 50 plus classes, which is like 50 plus hours of stuff. That's coming up then. Details in the description. So if you want to go to that, check it out. It is an affiliate link because I've got to earn money somehow. But you don't pay more just because of that. But that's the link to get it. But that is it. Listen, I've really enjoyed doing this one. This is one that I was thinking, should I do a pre-record on little bits? I love doing the live stuff. You folks know I love doing the live stuff. So I really do appreciate you joining me. So I will do that full length one. We'll get that out so you can go through all the step by step with that. Obviously, you'll get the file so you can do it all as well. So Di, your face is going to be everywhere. I've seen some lovely comments for Di as well. So brilliant. So folks, again, thank you very much. If you haven't yet, by the way, give us a like on the old video. I know Brian mentioned that earlier on. And if you haven't yet, click on subscribe because for me, it's just a great way that I can see that people are liking the content. You know, it's kind of like motivation to do more when you see that people are subscribing. So there you go. Thank you very much, folks. I will love you and leave you. Let's just bring the volume down on that one just there. I will see you next week.